this is my second bail-out recording. Hopefully that's a bit improved because the last one wasn't very good. Just for our practice for our bail application next week. Okay, Your Worship, my name is GemHill and I will be acting today on behalf of the prosecution. We will be opposing a grant of bail based on the grounds for objection given in the 1978 Bail Act. We believe there to be a possibility of the defendant re-offending whilst on bail, and also a possibility that he will be most likely to abscond. Looking at the facts of the case, Mr Bracken has committed a crime of theft under the 1968 Theft Act, including driving whilst under the influence of alcohol. He also has various past convictions for both offences and has previously served a custodial sentence for such offence. We find it highly unlikely that Mr Bracken will be found not guilty on these facts, so a custodial sentence will once more be most necessary. We also further believe that Mr Bracken's freedom is of most importance. However, the purpose of bail in fact itself is to prevent the defendant from ultimately being found not guilty and then having to suffer an unnecessary term of imprisonment. However, as from our research, we believe there is no real chance of Mr Bracken being found not guilty and not serving a custodial sentence, so we don't believe this to be an issue. After looking at these facts, a remand in custody seems to be the only reliable and safe option for all. Section 4 of the Bail Act does state that Mr Bracken can quite rightly be considered for bail as he is here appearing before the courts today. However, the prosecution believes that re-offending whilst on bail could be a further issue, and this is because Schedule 1 of the Bail Act provides us with these exceptions. It states that if there are substantial grounds to believe that the defendant, if released on bail, would commit an offence, then bail would not be granted. This, Your Worship, is something that the prosecution believes to be a high possibility. When looking at the nature and seriousness of Mr Bracken's offence, Mr Bracken did not just commit a crime of theft. He also did this whilst under the influence of excessive alcohol, with no motoring insurance. He was also, at the time, disqualified from driving for the crime of driving with excessive alcohol. Furthermore, Mr Bracken is still within his 12-month conditional discharge period for a previous conviction of theft. These facts alone proving to us that if Mr Bracken were to be released on bail, he would re-offend as he has already done so at this time. The defendant, from the facts, has committed an offence sufficiently serious enough to go to prison, leading us to believe that if the defendant were to be granted bail, he would be most likely to abscond as he knows he will go to prison. Looking at Mr Bracken's previous offences, both of which relate to the details of this case today largely, Mr Bracken has committed crimes whilst being under a life sentence of custodial discharge for theft, and is also still under a live driving ban. To back up our argument of absconding, Mr Bracken, we have read the personal circumstances of the defendant and have come to the conclusion that of his weak community ties, he has no reason not to abscond. His mother, as we have established, does live in the Republic of Ireland for one, but as he only visits her once every 2 months, he has no major ties to her. Also, Mr Bracken has no evidence of a stable relationship. He has no permanently fixed routine job, and he only works on a casual basis. He is furthermore living in a bed and breakfast, so he has no home to keep occupied or keep afloat here, giving him more reason to abscond. After looking at the evidence, I believe the strength of the prosecuting facts are very strong, swaying towards Mr Bracken being convicted and being found guilty. We are asking for a remand in custody, as we do not deem conditional discharge to be safe due to re-offending. Furthermore, after looking at the conditions for the options for conditional bail, evidence of Mr Bracken being unsuitable for even a bail hostel due to his drinking problems from the probation service proves to us that also in any type of conditional bail, i.e. taking the defendant's passport, may make no change at all, as because in fact whilst having any access to any alcohol or being in his usual environment seems to be asking for reasons for the defendant to abscond. That completes my submission, Your Honour, and if you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you.